Hi everyone. For a long time I've been wanting to post this video, but my biggest fear about posting it was, what if I offended somebody? And the more I got thinking about it, I said, well, I don't care if I offend people by what I have to say, because it's got to come out. It's got to be said. And if people don't like what I say, they've got a lifetime to build a bridge and get over it. So with that having been said, I hope you'll bear with me. I'm going to try to get as much in pertaining to this subject in the next 15 minutes as I possibly can. What I'm talking about specifically is religious abuse. My religious abuse, the abuse that I suffered at the hands of the church when I was a child. And no, I'm not talking about the stereotypical stories of, Catholic priests, everything. I'm leaving the Catholic Church out of this. This took place in an evangelical fundamentalist church, an extreme evangelical fundamentalist church. It started back in 1980 when I was a child. I was 9 years old at the time. And up until that point, I had normal friends. I went to a public school. I was in the Boy Scouts. I was a typical happy-go-lucky 9-year-old kid. And I enjoyed myself. I went fishing with my friends. I went to see the movies with my friends. I went to the beach with my friends. And as soon as my grandmother died in '79, my dad started looking for a new church to go to. He was really wrapped up in the church at that time. And so he found this church, and they needed an organist. He knows how to play the organ, and so he became the church organist. Well, naturally, typical thing in the South, whatever church your parents go to, you have to go to as a child. You have no say-so in the matter. And so, naturally, I started going to this church. And because of the extreme lifestyle in that church, I quickly lost interest in life itself, because to me it was just this lifestyle they wanted me to lead was so unrealistic. They wanted me to be this perfect little Jesus freak, and I couldn't do that no matter how hard I tried. Didn't really want to try, to be honest with you. And my grades started faltering at school. Faltering, hell, they started falling through the fucking basement. But it was because I was not happy in my everyday environment. And to compensate, the church told my dad, well, what he needs in his life is more religious upbringing, more religious teachings. What you've got to do, brother, is you've got to take your son out of that ungodly public school and put him in a Christian school. So the next thing I know, I'm taken out of public school and put into this, what I refer to as the Jesus Freak Academy, where my grades continued to plummet, so much so that eventually they told my dad, the school principal told my dad, your son's got to go. His grades are faltering too much. It's given us a bad reputation. So he's got to go. Well, what happened then? I was put in another Christian school where the same thing happened again. And it's not that I didn't have any interest in school. It's not that I wanted to get bad grades. But I had no interest in, like I said, in life at that point. And during this time, the preacher had another brainstorm of an idea. He said, well, brother, you've got to take your son out of the Boy Scouts and put him in the Royal Rangers. They're a bunch of Jesus-loving young boys and men, and they'll teach him leadership responsibilities and life lessons, all in the name of Jesus. It's just a good Christian environment. All that helped to do was fuck me up more later on in life. All the Royal Rangers is It's the Jesus freak equivalent of the Boy Scouts, and it's just another way of cramming the Bible and religion down kids' throats. Again, that's my opinion. I know opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. Well, that's mine. Okay? And I'm basing my opinion based on personal experience. And then that just caused my life to go into an out-of-control spiral, because now my whole life was just intertwined in the church. That's all I could do was eat, drink, breathe, and shit church all the time. And that's not normal for any kid. It is just not. And occasionally I would sneak off and do things that I wasn't supposed to do. Like, for instance, some of my friends wanted to go to the beach one day. That was strictly verboten in the church. You could not go to the beach. Forget about it. Why? Because there were women and girls walking around on the beach wearing swimsuits, and that was considered ungodly. That was an abomination to God. That was satanic. And anyway, I went with my friends anyhow to the beach. Wouldn't you know it, somebody from the church happened to be driving along there. Wrong place, wrong time, for me anyway. They saw me. This was on Saturday. The next day in church, I was dragged before the front of the church and had an exorcism performed on me. Yes, folks, I said exorcism. Something that should never have even been in the history of mankind. It has no place in the history of mankind, but yet it's there. Something that you associate with either Hollywood or with the Middle Ages, and yet even to this day, 21st century, they're still doing it. And they just knew that the demon of lust was responsible for me breaking church rules and going to the beach that day with my friends. And my friends were just so demonically possessed and everything. I could no longer associate with them. Yeah, all I could associate with were kids in the church. Brainwashed little Jesus freaks. Well, after that, I still snuck around with my old friends, and one day we decided to see a movie. As I recall, I believe it was a horror movie, something like that. I don't even remember. I believe it was a horror movie, though. And wouldn't you know it, the theater manager, of all people, was a deacon in the church. I didn't know he had seen me go in the church, in the theater, but he did. This was on a Saturday again. The next day, you guessed it, another exorcism. Now, these people believe that watching movies is one of the biggest sins of all time, but yet one of their deacons was the theater manager. See how two-faced they can be? That was supposed to be all right. But anyway, and it was just a string. These were just two in a string, a long string of exorcisms. I'd either be drugged to the front of the church, or the preacher would come by my house, or my dad would cart me off to the preacher's house. So brainwashed, did they have him that he believed every word that they said. If they said that I was possessed by demons, he believed it. And so off I'd go. And I can't honestly tell you how many of those damned exorcisms I had. And is it something that'll fuck you up? Oh yeah. I'm 40 years old now, and I'm still psychologically traumatized by it. I have nightmares about it, even to this day. Horrid nightmares. Horrid nightmares about the rapture. Something that was completely created in the minds of Christians. It's not even mentioned in the Bible the way churches describe it. Okay? It was fabricated by extremist Christians. Things like that. Things that I have to live with all these years later. And again, I'm 40 years old and I've still got a lifetime of psychological therapy ahead of me that won't get rid of all the nightmares. It won't get rid of all the pain. It's impossible to. I can only hope and pray that I learn to deal with it better than what I have in the past. Thankfully, I've got a fiance now, Teresa. Um, to say that she's my rock is an understatement. That's a gross misunderstatement. She's my everything. And she understands me. She understands where I'm coming from, even though she's never been through the religious abuse and the religious trauma that I've been through. Still, she has the intellect and she has the intelligence to understand where I'm coming from. And if it weren't for her and her encouragement and her love and support, I doubt that I'd even be here talking to you now, because I would more than likely have blown my brains out a long time ago. That's how much Teresa has changed me. She's given me a reason to live. She's given me a reason to reach out and help other people through small gestures like this, through YouTube. And I do hope that this video will help people that have been through the same thing that I've been through understand that there is hope. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy to deal with it later on, but there is hope. I hope and pray that one day these extremist Christian churches will no longer have a place in our society. The churches like I went to as a kid, the Westboro Baptist churches, things like that. They're the church, incidentally, it has the website godhatesfags.com that picket fallen soldiers' funerals because they were gay. They recently picketed Ryan Dunn's funeral. He was the star of MTV's Jackass. He had a few drinks one night, was driving his Porsche at about 140, 150 miles per hour, and it wound up wrapped around a tree, and he and the guy in the car were burned to a crisp. I'm not saying I condone drinking and driving. I don't do it myself. Yes, I do drink. I do not drink and drive. But regardless of whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, Ryan Dunn made the ultimate sacrifice. He paid for his mistake with his life, and the man should be left to rest in peace. If they could have gotten over to England, I'm sure they would have boycotted Amy Winehouse's funeral, and that's another tragic story. The girl had demons, and I'm not talking about church-created demons. I'm talking about the demons that life gave her, that she was never able to overcome. And if Amy is out there somewhere in the vastness of space and time, I hope she's found peace. I really do. Perhaps one day, again, these churches will have no place in our society. One can only hope. If you know of a child that is going through something like this, I urge you to do what you can to stop it. If it's nothing more than putting an editorial in the paper explaining your beliefs on such things, then do that. People have got to be made aware of these things. Knowledge is power. And so you'll be giving these kids stuck in these situations the power to hopefully get out of them. This is the first of many YouTube videos that I'll be posting pertaining to things like this. And I hope that you find them intriguing, insightful, maybe even entertaining. Until next time, I wish you peace, good fortune, and happiness. Peace out.